Yes, geezers. This is my third take of this video. Let's go. It's patch day. I've built a bunch of decks that I wanted to share with you. I think they're really cool. A lot of them are using the new cards, and I think they're built to, a high level with some, a bit of spicy spice in there as well. If you guys like the video, please do give it a like, and also comment down below what other cards you want me to try building this patch. Also, make sure to check me out on Twitch today on patch day, 3:30 p.m. GMT, where I stream going every day. If you don't already follow me over on Twitch, it's twitch.tv/Specimen. Right, we've got a deck for every faction, including 2 for Scoia'tael. We've got all the new cards in there. I want to build a few more as well on patch day, so there's going to be deck guides on a lot of these, but also some other decks, so make sure you're subscribed. Cool. Syndicate didn't get many changes. King of Beggars has got nerfed. Again, if you want to see my patch notes video, so many plugs, I did cover all the patch notes that went up yesterday, so if you want to see what changed, that's a good video to go watch. King of Beggars got nerfed. Jackpot also lost a provision. So you can see we've got 1 spare provision. This is because I'm recording before the patch is actually out. I just built a Salamander deck, pretty much. I put Saul in and Knickers. You could play like Flying Redanian, but then I had like an 8 provision card. It was a little bit awkward. Not really much to do with Syndicate. Your decks from last season are still going to work. I still think King of Beggars is the way to play Syndicate. I still think Jackpot is the way to play Syndicate. It did lose a couple of points on King of Beggars and a provision, but it was a top deck last season. I would expect it to remain the same. So your Syndicate decks from last season, just use them, and for me that was Jackpot. Okay, up next, monsters got no changes. So what am I doing with monsters? Well, we're playing Muzzle. Muzzle is a neutral card. It's going to be 10 provisions tomorrow. Again, that's why we're 1 provision over in this one. It's going to be 10 provisions tomorrow. And it's also seizing a 6 power card. So why Muzzle, and why the hell am I playing Ancient Foglets? Well, if you go back a long time on my channel, you might remember an Ancient Foglet operator deck, which is here, hiding, disguised as Eridin. What you want to do is in round 1, you want to play Operator onto an Ancient Foglet. And then what you can do is you can muzzle it. And because it's got Veil, it's not going to get locked. But we don't want to muzzle it in round 1. We want to muzzle it in round 3. Because we're going to want to Incubus the Ancient Foglet out. We then might even want to kill the other one with like a little bit of weather and maybe a natural selection or a drown or something like that, and then hopefully Incubus again, another Ancient Foglet, and then you can muzzle that one to give yourself another Ancient Foglet on your side of the board, which are then going to be getting a bunch of buffs from all the weather with stuff like Ardgaith. We've got Avalak in here as well. There's a few different versions I tried of this. A big problem I had was just fitting a bunch of 4 provision cards in that looked good. We are non-devotion, so we can't play the Anal Conquerors. So instead of that, we've got the Lesser Witch combined with the Mushy Truffle, which is just a nice solid package of cards. Obviously, these can be 10 for 4s, so it just seemed pretty decent. The Bruisers, the Nilfgaard's crew are really good options. The Drowner and the Bruiser gives us lots of control. Parasite, another card you might want to try, but we've got Heatwave, Muzzle, Toad Prince, loads of control. We've also got an Neuromancy, Royal Decree. That's just there to try and make sure we get this Operator combo in round 1. Same reason that Curse Scroll is in there. But yeah, might want to experiment with Defender, with Dollar with Parasite. Lots of things you could definitely experiment with, but just make sure you've got a lot of 4 provision cards in the deck. The last thing you want to do is just play a bunch of 5s. Like the first time I built this, I only had, I think, the Natural Selections and the Drowners at 4 provisions. So I really wanted to try and add some 4 provision cards to polarize the deck more and make sure we end the game with 4 provision cards in our deck, because that means we're maximizing the amount of provisions we play in the game. Very important. Okay, cool. Another deck I'm going to try as well with Ancient Foglets is Maddock with Arrakis Queen. But because that wants to be a Redea deck, I was only playing one Ancient Foglet, and it just seemed off. So I only built this one. All right, up next, let's go to nut on some Sigvalds. Because what you can do is nut change, or Canute, I like to call him nut. One thing that I've always wanted to do is nut on some Fish Flappers. But not for this deck. We're going to be using nut on something else. I'm not sure exactly what. But again, if you want to see exactly what's changed with these cards, the patch notes video is the best place to go. But basically, Nut is now an order, and it also has Berserk 5, and he refreshes his order. So you can use this card multiple times for some nice control for this deck, which is going to be really, really interesting. Also, we're 2 provisions over right now, but Sigfold and Restore both decreased in provisions. So that's why we're 2 provisions over. Sigfold as well has like some weird ability where instead of getting damaged, he bleeds, and then you can purify him and damage an opponent's card or boost one of your own. Like, there's all sorts going on with this card. So Sigfold plus Nut, they both got buffed. Restore as well. It's basically the same as my decks from previous times using Ursine Ritual with Ceres. I like to go non-devotion because Sunset Wanderers is just insanely good with the discard package with Coral Burner. So, and Fukusha as well can sort of slot in there. And Mushy Truffle is just incredibly good also with the Half-Roos. Mushy Truffle just giving you that nice carryover, but also the Half-Roos just kind of just belong in this deck anyway. Like they're self-damage cards. They also give you healing targets for Ceres. You've got a couple of veterans, a couple of priests. No room for Melusine in this one, which I know a lot of you are going to be surprised by. Melusine was in my previous versions of this with a Sigdrifa, but she felt like, or it felt like, I don't know. It felt like the weakest card. I know Payabol kicked Melusine from his version of this deck. And I did end up using her, but she was kind of my least favorite card from the deck. Definitely feels a lot better in Rain. You could try it though, but this is what I went for. Remains to be seen just how good Sigfold is. I think this card is insanely good though. So yeah, Restore as well. Now it's 5 provisions. It does just seem a lot more easy to justify. I wanted to give it a try, but again, the jury is out on actually how good the card is, but it does have a lot of synergy with Nut. So we can Nut on Defender, and then we can restore the Defender and get a bunch of points there. So yeah, pretty excited to try this deck out. Ursine Ritual with Ceres Fearless, definitely one of my favourite Skellige decks in recent months. Alright, we've still got Nilfgaard, we still have 2 Scoia'tael decks, and we still have NR. Let's go to Scoia'tael. Alright, first one's first. This was just like a deck where I tried to cram in a bunch of different cards which got buffed. I wanted to play all of them, including Fran, but something had to get cut, so Fran got removed. Now, you'll notice we're 5 provisions over. That's because Etril and Beluga, both now 6 provisions, so we saved 4 provisions there. And Great Oak also is now just 12 provisions, so we saved a provision there. So, it's an Alza deck. It's playing flipping Saskia. Invigorate is the leader of choice because I couldn't play Guerrilla Tactics because we needed to fit all these cards in. Precision Strike sucks with Saskia because you end up pulling the 2-point matrons. And all the other leaders also kind of suck. So we went for Invigorate. It's a 12-point leader. You can buff up your Catwitcher, buff up your Sears, buff up your flipping Alza maybe. Buff up your Saskia, who's immune. You can play around like Delirium and stuff, for example, with your Saskia. So there's a few things you can do with it, right? It's just like a value leader. Buff up your Sears is another good one as well to protect them. But it's pretty trash. But it's the best I could do. Yeah, we've got Salve. This card got buffed. It's now going to be counter 2. It's actually a suggestion that I sort of made that this card could get buffed. It's a spell, which is nice with Alza. You've got a single Catwitcher just to pull off of your Saskia. And you'll notice like the 4s are kind of weird because... No, that's the other deck. The 4s are particularly weird. Like we had no tags. Pact is your backup option off of Simless. If you're Simless Bricks and it's a spell card. Yeah, the deck's kind of self-explanatory. It's just a flipping Alza deck with a Great Oak and Etril, Beluga, and a Salve. But definitely looking forward to playing this one. Great Oak definitely synergizing very well with Saskia. Obviously, Saskia and Alza as well put a bunch of cards into the same row. So Great Oak, it got a point and a provision, so a really significant buff to Great Oak. And yeah, the Vanguard is just my card of choice for the Mushy Truffle. It works nicely with the Orb of Insights as well as having enough bodies for the Froth itself. So yeah, that's one of the decks. The other one is much more exciting though. Again, the leader flipping sucks, man. All the Scoia'tael leaders just feel bad. And that's mainly because Saskia is just popping off. Like, the best one, really, is still Milva plus Guerrilla Tactics. But I couldn't fit in all the cards I wanted to play while still including this Milva at 11 provisions. So I went for Forge. The main reason is you can combine Francesca with Forge quite well. You could play Fran down, and then you could Slam Jam the leader ability, and then use your Heat Wave the next turn for a double Heat Wave or a double Muzzle. Again, with 1 provision over. That's because Muzzle is getting buffed. So it's very similar that we've got the Owls, we've got the Saskia, we've got the Truffle. Because we're so tight on provisions in this one, we are playing the Marauder instead of the Vanguard because it was all I could really cut. And you'll notice the 4s just look so ugly. Oh my god. Yeah, I don't even know, mate. It looks absolutely atrocious. You might want to fiddle with maybe playing like double Matron. You might want to fiddle with playing like... I don't know, double Marauder or something. But we needed the Squirrel for the Beast tag. We needed the Ale for the Alchemy tag. We needed the Bomb for the Bomb tag. And yeah, that's the deck. I hope you guys enjoy it. Also, Muzzle is a spell. So by the way, it does synergize with Alza. So that's pretty cool. So Scales just asked, what can that pull? That's a good question, I guess. A bunch of cards, but there's obviously like other factions. You could technically get a Fran off Alza, which is pretty damn cool actually, right? Again, there's going to be better Scoia'tael decks, but it's just like an early attempt at Fran. Playing Heatwave, playing Muzzle. Like, Alza, Saskia, Truffle, to my mind, has to be the best way to play Scoia'tael. So all these cards are in the deck. It just always looks really ugly, mate. Like, and none of the leaders really suit it. It's probably going to be a Guerrilla Tactics deck in my mind. Like, in my opinion, that's just the best way to play it. But these are just the best ways to do the new cards. And who knows, like, this new Fran is pretty damn insane. So, yeah. Cool. Up next, we have, I guess, Nilfgaard. Now, there's another Nilfgaard deck I want to build, which my friend Bane suggested, which is actually going to be using Will-O-Wisps and Gaunt-O-Dim. So if you guys want to see that deck, let me know. And the main card we're building around is the new Philippe. This card basically is a cooldown card, which gives Doomed. And if it already has a status, it locks it. And if it's got 2 statuses, it poisons it. So it's also an aristocrat, so it synergizes with Masquerade Ball. It synergizes with Thirsty Dame because it's giving a bunch of statuses. And it synergizes with poisons because you can potentially poison something. And it's also the new card, the Van Morlam Servant. Again, check the patch notes, which will be below. Check the patch notes video. But this is basically going to be moving statuses or copying statuses. So if you've got 3 statuses on a particular card, let's say you've got a poison, a lock, and a doom, you can move that to another card, which is going to trigger your Thirsty Dame like 3 times, and it's going to give you another thing for you to target with Philippe to poison. So pretty cool. It's not a aristocrat, but it is just a nice cheap bronze card, which does synergize with your poisons because it can be a poison. Also synergize with the Thirsty Dame of Ball. I went down the route of playing Imposter. You might want to change the leader. The reason I went for Imposter again is because this leader has the word status in its keywords, right? Like if you give a load of statuses on one row with the Van Morlahan Servants, like let's say you manage to get 5 statuses on a particular card, for example, which sounds difficult, but let's say you do hypothetically, you could then copy those 5 statuses onto the adjacent cards, which would be 15 statuses, which would mean your Imposter would buff something by 15. So we wanted to try it, right? Also, the fact that it gives the status does synergize with Philippe. We've got the Cupbearers, we've got the Fangs. A card I definitely wanted to try and play in this deck was not the Serquan, it was Vigo. With Masquerade Ball, you do often just want to play Devotion because of the Usurper. You'll also notice the lack of Mage Assassins with this deck. That's because I wanted to play Brathans. Brathans is just so good with Usurper, so good with Masquerade Ball. Obviously, you've got like Cupbearer in as well as like an assimilate trigger. So I decided to cut the Blightmaker's Mage Assassins in order to fit all the tactics for Ardal, Calvate, because Ardal is also just an insanely good aristocrat. Synergizes with Invo. Yeah. Okay, last but certainly not least, NR. There's all sorts of decks going on for NR. I also want to try a stockpile deck, so look out for that. This is what I built, though. Again, I think this is going to get tweaked. So, for the most updated versions of these decks, make sure you check out my stream where I'm going to be live, and obviously the videos that I post once I actually test these and play around. But Resupply got a huge work. Odrin is a one-man crew, so obviously he's in the deck. Trollolololol is a card that I really want to try, but isn't in this one, unfortunately. Now, I thought at first this was going to get buffed during the hand-and deck, but it's only when it's on the board. So, not quite as good as I thought. Siege Towers, I believe, are going to 4 provisions. I could be wrong on that, so these might get tweaked. Again, check my video, my stream, because in the patch notes it doesn't say these are going to 4 provisions, but I believe it did in the video, so we think these are going to 4 provisions. That's like one thing we're not sure on. Siege Masters are like thinning from the deck. They're flying out from our hand whenever you play a crew card, and then we're going to be drawing a card with it, which is pretty damn cool. We've gone Devotion. We can play Marines. Like, there's no real reason to play Devotion. It just sort of happened. Vengeance plus Priscilla. This is the main question mark, this card, but you can use a leader charge on Priscilla to get the Inspired tag. And if you Priscilla the card that is next to Hensel, that's going to give your Hensel a big boost as well. War Chariot also got Resupply. So Resupply, we do have double oil, we have reinforcements, we have bombardments. We are missing, unfortunately, the frigate, which I wanted to try and play. So definitely try and play 1 frigate if you can. Also the reinforced ballista, the Cara Ballista. There's a bunch of cards with Siege that you might want to try, but it was hard to fit everything. I decided to play Hubert. I decided to play the Siege Masters because that's just a lot of points flying out the deck, which I think is pretty cool when we don't have any like cards like a Neuromancy. We have Assault, but yeah. Alright, cool. There's all the decks. There's going to be loads more coming. I'm really excited to jump into this patch. If you watch this far, the key word is inspired because of Priscilla. Alright guys, hope you enjoyed the video. Like it if you did. Thanks for watching. See you on the next video when it's going to be gameplay time. Alright, deuces.